and welcome to the MXG podcast number 2. My name's Craig, I'll be the host, and we're joined with Tony and Tiswas. Say hello, Tony.
Hello.
And say hello, Tiswas.
I thought you'd actually forgotten about me. Hello there.
Who could forget you? Okay.
Best I can do, I'm still hiding behind you.
Here we go. So, realistically, with the E3 date being confirmed as the 13th of June at 17:30 UK time, I thought it'd be a good chance to ask people what would you think you're going to expect from this year's E3?
Who are you directing that at?
It was an open floor, but I'll go with Tony.
Okay. I mean, the first thing I'm expecting, maybe it's a bit soon, but I think some version of HoloLens that will sort of work more like a Kinect as a sort of accessory to the Xbox. That'll probably be a focus of something on it, I'd imagine.
I'm going to say, because I know it's like the newest piece of technology which is coming out, but deep down to myself, I really don't think that's going to take off, especially the price.
No, either that or it'll be something where they'll say, oh, it's like, oh yeah, we do want to do some sort of, augmented reality or virtual reality work, and just have it as a small intro rather than it's more, oh, it's coming in a year's time sort of thing, or longer term,
I've got to admit, one thing I did like before is when Xbox turned around and says, oh yes, we're going to go backwards compatible and we're going to be now. And he clicks his fingers and there he was. It's as instant as that.
Myself, I think we're probably looking at 2 new consoles being announced. I think there's probably going to be a Slim, basically just slimmed down, just exactly the same SKU underneath, really, with the same hard disk and everything else. But I think there's also going to be another one that's there to kind of compete with the new PlayStation that's kind of rumoured to have been announced, called the Neo, which has the upgraded CPU. It was able to access 512 megabytes more RAM, and there's plenty going off if that's actually true. Can either of you see another Xbox being released at E3, or at least just announced?
Definitely a slim version. I'm not sure about the other one, although we did discuss what we go in with that sort of last week, didn't we? Yeah, so...
Yeah, well, from what I've been reading into, basically, yeah, they've just announced, I think it was yesterday, about the PlayStation Neo going live. But also I found out about 3-4 days ago that Xbox and Microsoft had actually put in a patency for two new projects, which they're not giving full details away. But there is talk that yes, the Slim is one of them, and then the second one is for a new Wi-Fi processor, which means possibly a whole new machine. Rather than just an update, it's going to be a new machine completely.
Well, Phil did mention the other week, Phil Spencer, that he's not a fan of an Xbox 1.5. So you could either take that to mean that there is going to be a new revision released, but it's going to be a lot better, or you could take it to be the next generation, and they're not actually going to jump in with a new model in the next couple of years. They're just going to wait until the generation turns again in about 2019.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but when you've gone out and spent like £350 on an Xbox One just about 2 years ago now, you're not going to just go out and spend another £350 just so you can have 4K. I might as well. For me, I'd rather wait another 5-6 years when 4K is actually more popular, more cheaper, and then allow it to come out with a new machine.
Yeah, when it's accessible. I mean, yeah, that is, you got all these things. They have that kind of life, don't they? I mean, it should be at least 5 years for this, if not a little bit more.
So you don't want it to go the way of, say, the iPhone with a kind of half revision every 1 or 2 years.
Why?
People tend to buy them, don't they? They tend to get really excited about them, and a console would be a lot cheaper than buying an iPhone.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but have you ever tried putting an Xbox One down the toilet?
Would it fit?
Is that why you're waiting for the slim one, right?
Yeah. Let's just note the isolators being the Xbox One SHIT.
Ooh.
No, it's the SH14, surely.
Oh well, yeah. Come on, let's put a digit in there. But initially, I think, from my point of view, if they've really got to look at what people really want. Do they want to just upscale and get a slightly faster machine, or would they rather sort of wait and then get the next generation maybe 3 years down the line rather than waiting 5?
I'd rather wait, to be honest.
To be honest, I usually go and buy the newest that's available as soon as it becomes available. But with this, I've been thinking, I don't think I actually would. I'm quite happy with the console that I've bought. I don't really go in for this counting pixels. Every game that I play on the Xbox looks acceptable and usually looks really good to me, and I don't think I'd be able to tell the difference, to be honest.
Well, unfortunately, from my point of view, it's like as you guys know, I wear glasses, so when it even comes down to 3D, it's pointless to me because I've got to put a pair of glasses on top of a pair of glasses, and then I still can't see it properly.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, something tells me, even if it's not that sort of, the 3D isn't necessarily that far along, but there'll be some sort of peripheral as well as the sort of slim console. That's the only thing I can think the two sort of things being. I mean, maybe going more into this where you've got the cross-platforming.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something more advanced on that. Yeah.
I think we need to sort of look at. Basically, I think I was reading up on it the other day about how people's preferences. It's like some choose PlayStation, some choose Xbox. It's like I don't see why not. If people want to buy those machines, that's fine. But I do like cross-platform idea. Is the fact is you can all play without being a bit of a war about it. Who cares what machine you've got as long as you're playing the same games.
Yeah, you can join in the game no matter what you're on. Yeah.
And then it doesn't mean you've got to go out and buy a PlayStation and an Xbox. Isn't that right, Mr. Meakin?
Yeah, I've got both. I'll be quite honest. I've probably played on my PlayStation 3 times. Then it sat underneath my Kinect as a glorified Kinect stand. And around about 3 months ago, I packed it away and it's sat in a wardrobe just not being used.
So later on in this competition, if you can put in a good enough bid, he'll probably sell it to you.
No, there was nothing wrong with it, realistically. The games it played, they looked absolutely fantastic, as what I believe of the Xbox One. To me, it was the user interface and the online connectivity. It just didn't gel with me when I tried to use it. In fact, one of the first times I tried to connect to it, I spoke to Neil, who's not here tonight. I was talking to him on the phone whilst I was using it. And I can remember I was coming kind of forwards and backwards about actually returning it because I just couldn't get along with the actual user interface and the online having to wait for things. Everything took such a long time to do anything. But that's just my opinion. I just like the Xbox. I like all the menus. I know where they're going to be. All of my friends are on that particular network, and that's probably the overriding factor that most people kind of go with. Where are my friends going to be playing this year?
I've got to say, in my case, it was a lot of it was the kind of games that were available, as well as like of the ones that weren't were exclusive to PlayStation and Xbox. The ones that were exclusive to the Xbox appealed to me more. It's as simple as that, and also because I'd had both sort of sides in the past with PS2 and Xbox 360. I knew what to expect from both, really. So it was down to that for me personally.
Well, from my point of view, is basically mine's just quite simple. I just didn't like the build quality of it. I thought it was cheap plastic, and it's the amount of people I know who keep dropping their controllers on the floor and like the L2 R2 buttons keep snapping. I just thought, no, it's a lot of money.
Okay, let's have a look. Okay, so who's seen the Titanfall 2 trailer? I think I'll ask Tony first, as I think he's probably the last person to have watched it.
Yeah, I just watched it before we came on, funnily enough. Um, yeah, it looks like it's a decent sort of, another game. I don't know whether it seems to be focusing on more the sort of, human combat rather than the robots this time. Well, from that trailer, it seemed like that. I don't know.
It's got a sword. It's got a sword.
Exactly, it's sort of expanding what you can do without the massive robot. So, I mean,
I
it
don't
might
know.
be that it just happens to be. Well, obviously, it won't be a game just set in that universe, but maybe it'll be a very similar thing. But oh yeah, you've got enhanced capabilities. That's usually the kind of thing you get in a sequel, isn't it?
You
Right.
most probably didn't notice, whereas I did. I kind of took the time to go over it a few times. But if you really look at the actual sword when it's kind of planted into the ground, it's got a serial number on it. And part of the serial number actually mentions PC, and then it's got PS, and then it's got like a, a dash, and then it's got a number 4, and it's kind of a bit of an Easter egg that it's just being released on the PC and the PS4. Just a bit of an Easter egg there.
What sort of, so basically they're like gonna dump Microsoft and jump over to PS.
Well, it does appear that way. So, when was the last time either of you played Titanfall? Was it when we did the game night a few months ago?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm gonna say it was quite fun. Just basically going back to your classics, the reason how we all got together in the first place.
It was. I must admit, I'd forgotten just how much fun the game could be and just how fluid it was, just jumping and then parkouring across the walls. It seemed pretty seamless, and I think I took that for granted when it first came out. It kind of, yeah, I really enjoyed it when we revisited it, and a bit like Rocket Cars in a way.
I've got to admit, like since this since Titanfall actually came out, it's okay, it's an old classic now, but I think that game sort of killed it for me with the Call of Duty games because it just seemed to be massive clones after them. Because if you remember, Titanfall came out, and then it was the newest Modern Warfare. They all had bioplants, and they could jump and run on walls, and it just seemed to follow in that suit. So, good game. Hopefully, the sequel might have a story behind it.
So it was sort of one of the release games, wasn't it? So I think the time was coming. They felt they had to do something in terms of a sequel.
Definitely.
And I mean, I can't see them completely ditching Xbox. I can just see them not being exclusive to it anymore.
Yeah, I've got to say, I think it needs to be got out there a little bit more because
Yeah.
I do know a few PlayStation fans, and they said they quite liked the game, but they just didn't like the aspect it was just locked into one console.
Yeah, and that's where the cross-platforming again feeds in, to making that, a game like that. You got that people playing that on PC versus Xbox versus PlayStation. That's going to be brilliant.
Yeah, definitely.
So, just talking about revisiting games, has anybody played the Sunset Overdrive since it came free with gold?
I've never played it. I don't intend to play it, unfortunately. It didn't interest me.
What was
I've
it about it
downloaded
that
it.
put you off?
Sorry?
What was it about it that put you off?
Um, I'm a simulator person, unfortunately. I find very arcadey games quite tedious.
Yeah, it was kind of if I remember rightly, it was a bit of a mishmash of many different games and styles, and it seemed all over the place, and it just couldn't keep my attention. I'll be honest, I haven't revisited it, even though it's become free with gold. Have you had a look at it, Tone?
I've just downloaded it, but I haven't actually had a chance to play it yet. Because for the same reason, that kind of mishmash of sort of different games and different styles of game that actually appealed to me, and I didn't get to play it before, so I'll have a go at it.
Well, it should be
Maybe
quite
one day.
it'll be an interesting to sort of see how you sort of come around with it and see how you
Yeah.
think of it. To me, it's like, as I say, I'm very hard to please. A few of the other players who we know through the group actually know how hard it is to actually please me with games. But I know it seems a bit of a weird reference, but I felt it was a lot like the playability of Crazy Taxi. You know, where you just go in, do the same thing again and again and again till your time runs out.
Yeah.
I suppose, yeah. I mean, from what I can tell, it's more sort of. I mean, I look at the premise of it, and I sort of think like things like Borderlands, Bioshock, that kind of, where you can upgrade yourself, sort of thing. And then the GTA style, sort of more open world, sort of, So, yeah, I'll at least have a look at it. I think even when it's a free game, it's like lost nothing by trying it.
No, unfortunately, I game share with Tricky Trees, and he already bought it, so I already got it free in the first place.
Okay, I think I'll give Tony a bit of a 2 or 3 minute warning that we're about to do the software chart, just so he's expecting it. But what's something I really wanted to talk about last week, but we kind of ran out of time for one reason or another. I don't know if either of you read any of the reviews of Quantum Break. I've only played a bit of it, and I've been extremely happy with it. But I was kind of concerned that there was one particular reviewer that actually gave it a really, really low score. And it seemed out of the ordinary. Everybody else was giving it kind of 7.5s, 8.5s. But when you kind of look at this person, third-person shooters really aren't what he plays. He actually admits that. I wondered, what do you think about reviewers? Should they at least enjoy that type of game, or is that irrelevant?
Well, if it's at least admitting it, there should be that kind of clarity about it, I think. But as long as he's saying it's like, what, this isn't my normal sort of game, I would prefer to see a review from someone who's got experience across the range of an X type of game, Y type of game. I mean, I know that plenty of people who won't like, don't really play driving games. So, if I ask them, it's like about Forza or something, it's like I'd listen to a review, but I'd consider others more, I think.
Yeah.
But as long as there's that openness there about the fact that it's not normally my sort of game, then what's the problem there?
I'll just give you for instance of one of his arguments. He said that he couldn't get along with the game because he had to keep using cover, but it's a cover shooter, and
so that's a standard.
Maybe somebody who at least had an interest in third-person shooters wouldn't have given it a lower score because of something that you could actually expect from the game. What do you think, Craig?
Well, to be honest, from my point of view, I think like with any game what comes out needs to be a bit of honesty in there, because otherwise you're just employing people to sort of say, yep, this game's great, that game's great, this game's great, that game's great, just so they're selling things, so they're actually making money out of it, and then when people buy it, they then think, this is rubbish. I've just been convinced into it. But if they actually gave maybe 2 scores, it's like overall score coming through from other people, and then maybe sort of say, but as it's stated in the thing, this isn't my sort of game, so realistically I'd probably just give it a 4.
So I remember from when I was a child.
That's a long time ago.
It is a long time. It's a good 30-odd years ago.
Count.
I think it was the Games Master magazine. I can't remember if it was that one or one of the kind of others. But whenever they did a review, they actually got a second opinion from another member of staff, and they kind of took the media. I'm wondering if that's a more reliable way for companies to go, other than taking the chance that somebody's a little bit biased. Let's call it bias, as that could be what it is.
Yeah. Well, like turn it into a survey.
No, just 2 people, just different. They both have different tastes in games. They don't have to particularly like that one set, but both of them give it a score and kind of take the medium.
But Dominic Diamond hated everything.
He did, and I hated his glasses.
Yeah. I mean, the only problem with that is when you're looking at sort of a review, say in a magazine or for a web, as part of a journalistic sort of attempt on a website, often that is going to be sponsored in some way. So, there's going to be that bias there. You're going to have some companies pay for, oh, can you give this game a good,
No offense to get straight
at least
let's just
not
get
a
straight
full
to,
positive, but
let's get straight to the point. You're not going to please everybody.
exactly.
Okay. I think on that point, we shall move over to Tony and let him do the top 5 of the games that sold last week.
Yeah, okay, so for the week ending 16th of April, we have at number 5, down a few positions, Dirt Rally. Ooh, that's not good. I still haven't played that.
Come on.
And I need to, maybe my buying it would have boosted that a bit. I don't know. Number 4, we've got EA Sports UFC 2. No idea on that one.
I don't know how that comes in there.
Which is weird because I've always, I do play some of the sort of more combat type games. For some reason, UFC games don't interest me. There's my honest review. Staying at number 3, Tom Clancy's The Division.
That's got to be my favourite game at the moment, to be fair. I'm glad it's still up in the top 5.
Yeah, I think that's going to stay there for a while, to be honest. But I also think so are these other two. Quantum Break is actually down to number 2.
So I take it we've got a new number 1 then?
Yep, and that's Dark Souls 3, which I seem to remember being at 5 last week, or was that the new game we announced? We sort of talked about last week.
Last week it was a pre-order, and we used the Amazon chart, didn't we, instead of the one we've used this week. That could be a discrepancy.
So yeah, it's gone straight in, off that pre-order and into number 1.
It has.
So there must be something good about it.
Okay, probably just time for me to go through and mention the newest backward compatibility titles. So they've just released Garou MOTW. Not quite sure what those letters stand for. I probably should have checked, but I didn't, I'll be honest. We have Sonic the Fighters. And last of all, probably one of my favourite games of all time, and a lot of people may not agree, is Duke Nukem Manhattan Project.
Yeah, I'm going to definitely try out the Sonic one and the Duke Nukem one.
I haven't even turned on my Xbox yet, so I can't figure out what these are, so I'll take a look when I've got a chance.
What was the quote? Was it, "Hail to the beef, baby"? It was either beef or pig. I can't quite remember which one.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of other things we can't quote from Duke Nukem on it.
Yeah.
It is. We are catering to the mature audience, but I can get where you're coming from with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the other things that I really wanted to look at was, let's take for instance the Tomb Raider, the newest one that came out. Do you think that when a studio goes into exclusivity deals with a particular console, do you believe it actually hurts that IP?
Very much so. Because the amount of people I know who love playing the Tomb Raiders and are on the other consoles are actually just kicking off because they love it so much they want to play it, and they've been left out this time.
Yeah, and sadly they'll probably end up with some sort of, because sometimes you get these clone type games. It's like, oh, it's just like, but we'll call it, Temple something, or instead of Tomb Raider.
Let's turn it fruit based. Let's call it Temple Plum.
Yeah. I think it either goes one of two ways. Either the people on the console where it hasn't been released are really kind of begging for it to be released on the console, or they actually absolutely slate it because there's some kind of jealousy there. I think realistically it was one of my favourite games of 2015. Did anybody else play it?
Which one was this one, sorry?
The Tomb Raider one.
The original sort of reboot. Well, it's a reboot, wasn't it, of Tomb Raider? Yeah.
I think I've got it, but I just haven't had a chance yet.
You've most probably got it because the person you game share tends to actually buy most new games that come out. It's just finding the time and the space on the machine to be able to play it, I'd imagine, in your case.
Yes, Xbox off.
Yeah, it's one of them things though. It's like the having it available across the platforms. Again, back to that from earlier, can never hurt the game, but also sometimes it helps a console to have a game associated with it. Like, going back to sort of my preference for driving games, you've got Forza on the Xbox, you've got Gran Turismo on the PlayStation. That's how it's been, since the first PlayStation. And but you can then have those competing brands.
Well, also, can I just quickly add something into this IP sort of subject?
Mhm.
Basically, from my point of view, I don't see why they're doing it. It's like when they re-release it in HD, why did they just add it to the backwards compatibility?
I think one of the main reasons, from what I read about the Tomb Raider, and this kind of goes for the Hitman, the new Hitman that's come out as well. Part of the reason was that the funding was so low for the actual game, it was going to have to come out episodically, which could have actually hurt the company. People may have bought the first couple and then not the rest, if that makes sense. So Microsoft kind of stumped up the money and said, well, we want you on our console for the complete first year exclusive. So the entire game was released in one kind of foul swoop. Did anybody else hear that rumor? That's what I read anyway. That was the reason.
No, I've only found out about the new Batman HD package, which is basically saying that when it actually comes out, you're not actually going to get the Origins one because that was created by Warner Studio themselves. It wasn't by Rockstar. So the only thing you're actually going to get is you're going to get the first two, which got released. Then the Origins isn't coming out, and you also will not have the latest one attached to that either. So even though they're saying that it's going to be the complete package, you're actually losing out on 2 games.
So it's going to be sort of opposite of what they've done with, say, the Orange Box and things like that.
Yep, exactly. It turns out they can't release the Origin one because it was made by a separate studio, and they don't
And
want
that
to do it.
studio's not playing. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the latest one, they still want to sell it separate. All they're doing is they're just boosting the power on the first two.
Okay. Going to start kind of winding this down now. We are a little bit understaffed as we're missing Neil today. Just wanted to ask you both, what games have you been playing this week? I know you've both got very hectic schedules. I'll just put mine out there. The only game that I've really been playing was a tiny little bit of Quantum Break, but a hell of a lot of Division with Scott and Paul. Shout out to Scott and Paul, the Sock Brothers. Yay. So, Tony, have you played anything at all this week when you've not been able to?
A little bit of Rocket League. Again, it's still got that value of going back to it.
Yeah, I've got to. We do need to try and arrange another night to get back on that because it's a cheap game and it was fun.
Yeah, it's either that or GTA tends to be really fun. If we don't go back as far as something like Titanfall.
Yeah.
Have they released was it a basketball DLC that they're going to release for Rocket League? Has that come out?
It is coming out, but I don't know when the
kept
release
getting
date is.
notifications about it, that it was coming up, but I didn't actually download it.
Actually, I tell a lie. I said I'd only been playing The Division and Quantum Break. After the last podcast, I did absolutely smack your arse at Pool. I think, what was it? Was it 4 out of 5 games?
Pool Nation.
Pool Nation.
Yeah, Pool Nation FX. Yeah.
Tried to do a brag clip of that, and the damn thing never actually uploaded, so I'll have to try and upload it again.
Oh, well.
I was going to say,
Never actually happened.
what we'll do is we'll keep the photographs of you smacking his ass off the internet.
How about you, Craig?
What happened at that hotel room is just...
What happens in Premier Inn stays in
Just
Premier Inn.
okay?
So when you've not been driving lorries, Craig, have you been managing to play any games at all?
I've been having a couple of little goes apart from driving the wife mad. I've just had like a quick half an hour here, half an hour there on the Dirt Rally. I've actually set up a short league right now to sort of compete against us all. Invites are there if people want to join in and just have a quick little 2-stage run, have a bit of a play around, sort of see what stages we're at. I had It was Tricky Trees who had game share with. Hello again. You will sneak into this somehow. He set up 2 stages, and I think there's about a minute and a half between us by the end of the 2 stages. What's the laughter?
That sounds like a smacking of an arse there.
Hey, I go one step further than smacking asses.
Yeah. Oh, it happened in the back of your truck, does it?
It is a tipper. You have to get rid of weight somehow.
You just kind of made me out to be a liar again. My memory at being 34 years old is not that great. I actually did try Dirt Rally, and it absolutely caned me. It's super ultra realistic in my opinion. It's not arcadey at all, which is kind of what I was hoping.
That's what you were hoping, because we recently started replaying Dirt 3, didn't we? Because it was on the backwards compat.
I think if I put 10 hours or more into it, I could become reasonable, but bearing in mind I've got a controller and not a wheel, probably not absolutely brilliant at the game.
I've got to admit, having a steering wheel is good because it allows you to be a little bit more precise, but they have turned it back to how it was originally when it was Colin McRae, so it's a lot more simulator based. And
rather than when it was actually changed to dirt.
Yeah, because one thing I've got to personally hate is when it's when you used to come off track and you didn't get a single dent or a single scratches bounce off and keep on flying around the track. Isn't that right, Meekin?
Forza Horizon.
Yeah.
My car was in pieces after my first and second attempt. It really was.
But I don't know if you've noticed that that's still actually on easy setting.
Oh, it most probably is.
It's like even I'm going out there and I'm only it took me probably 2-3 attempts to really get like 4th position.
So this will be closer to, say, when they had Project Cars come out, and that was for sort of the more circuit-based racing. This will be more the rally type version of that, where it's more sim. Like the F1 games, they tend to be more simulated, don't they? Although you do have an arcade element.
I was going to say this last one was a little bit too arcade for my liking. But no, it definitely is a good game.
You mentioned the league that Mark set up. The only way I found it was online. Is there a way to search for it on the Xbox for people to join in and have a go, or have you got?
I don't believe so. I think what we'll have to do is we'll have to find some sort of way of getting a link onto this video. Maybe
onto the group.
Get them onto the group, but we've got to get people like out in the world to maybe join the group as well. If you include all the information in the video as well on the comment section. But no, it's just new.
I'll put it on the blog on maturexboxgaming.uk. There we go. Yep, I'm guilty.
Bonus points in his pocket.
It is. So we're kind of getting towards the end. So I wanted to ask if anybody had any other business, anything else you wanted to talk about.
I've got one, and I know it's going to get Tony excited.
So we'll start with Craig.
Ghostbusters.
If it's the last Ghostbusters coming back on back compat, brilliant. This shot I see this new game.
From what I've read and from what I've heard, it is a little bit to do with the last game, but instead of it being the 4 originals with 1 extra, it's supposed to be 4 new characters who's got nothing to do with this new film or the old film.
Which is what the new film should have really been, just passing on rather than rebooting. But that's for another podcast that I'm doing in a couple of days.
Is it? Okay.
Is it the whole franchising kind of idea?
Probably, yeah. Although graphically it doesn't look good, but I don't know whether that's because it's going to be out on mobile as well.
I haven't seen any video footage of it yet.
Yeah, there was a sort of screenshot of Slimer, a very square Slimer.
Well, that depends on which that's going to come out. I think they'll probably do something.
Like I said, I don't know whether that was
a lot of money there.
Like I said, I don't know whether that's because it was a mobile version.
Yeah.
That's kind of what you get when you cross Slimer and some kind of ice cube tray, surely.
It was Minecraft Slimer, it might as well have been.
Minecraft Slimer.
Okay. You got anything else to add there, Craig?
Not from my point. No.
How about you, Tony?
No, I think we were both going to mention the same thing. So it's
Oh,
just that it releases in July to go with the film, so it's sort of tie-in, sort of not, sort of cash in, really.
I've
I
got. So,
thought
I'm
I
going.
thought I'd mention something that's not really been talked about in a long time, and that's the kind of meetup that the group was trying to arrange at Eurogamer. If any of you are interested that do listen to this, on the Facebook group there's an event set up, and it's for the end of September. I'll try and pin it so we can try and get more people interested, but that's really all I wanted to add. Is there anything else? I know I just cut somebody off, so I'll just ask you, did you want to carry on?
All the thing I was just going to say is I'll try and just think of a few subjects for the next podcast. Maybe look at like how film franchises go into games, sort of thing. Like have a quick discussion on that one.
Yeah. Okay. So we're right at the end. So really, it's all about the plugs at the moment. So I'll do mine first. So the group has its own Twitter account, which is Mature Xbox Gaming. So you could always follow us. There's the YouTube channel, which is youtube.maturexboxgaming.uk. And do either of you, we'll start with Tony, do you want to give out your Twitter or anything like that for people to get in contact with you?
Yeah, I can be found on the Twitter, Tone7x20, and also on the Airwaves podcast, which is a general podcast about media. We do sometimes include games from a slightly different perspective, as one of the hosts is more of a PC gamer. And that can be found at any good podcatcher or at www.the-airwaves.com.
And how about you, Craig? I know you do a lot of things for Team NMTP. Would you like to drop in any links or Twitter accounts?
Well, initially my Twitter account is NMTP2013. Basically, any sort of projects I try to highlight in there. I haven't done really much of late, just because I'm sort of held into contracts filming live shows for young performers, and due to child protection laws, I can't post a lot of those online. But I have got upcoming projects right now. One is to do with a new clothing line coming out, which will be called Fight Like a Lady. And also, I've just had a very long conversation tonight with a brand new paranormal investigation team. If I go along and make them their first pilot episode of their own program, and then teach them how to do it themselves.
So would that be a similar thing to I've watched some of the Fade to Black series?
I don't have a clue. Basically,
Okay.
we got to sit down yet and have a proper conversation. I've just been had a phone call basically asking my advice, where they can go with, and would I come along and help them with their first episode. And I think that's going to be filmed at Drakelow Tunnels in Kidderminster, which is an old what is it? Nuclear base.
Well, I didn't say that I was going to do this, but I just wanted to put it out there that all of the artwork and the kind of graphics that goes with our videos was all done by Craig. So if there's any people wanting any graphics done or just want to inquire, they should always kind of write to him on Twitter and see if there's anything that he can do.
When I find time in between working.
Okay. Well, that's it from me. Is there anything else you want to say before we end the podcast?
No, I think it's time for bed now.
Yeah,
Okay.
time to say goodnight.
I will say goodbye. Say goodbye, Tony.
Goodbye, Tony.
And say goodbye, Craig.
Goodbye, Craig.